The nation awoke to a seismic shock. The Supreme Court has frozen billions in federal aid. In a late-night emergency order, the court halted funds approved by Congress for critical programs nationwide and abroad. This is a temporary pause, not a final ruling, but its impact is immediate. The money is now locked away, projects stalled, and people left in limbo. The decision signals a brewing constitutional clash over who controls the nation's purse, the legislative branch that allocates funds, or the executive that spends them. The Supreme Court's order reverses a lower court's directive to release the money, putting everything on hold. Aid organizations and communities are scrambling, facing terrifying uncertainty. The court's decision was not unanimous, reflecting deep national divisions. Tonight we break down what this means, the origins of the crisis, the legal journey to the Supreme Court, and the people caught in the crossfire. This is about more than money. It's about power, the rule of law, and the balance of government. The stakes could not be higher. We'll trace the roots of this crisis to a Trump-era decision, and follow the legal battle to this dramatic moment. We'll hear from those on the front lines, aid workers, community leaders, and families whose futures now hang in the balance. The Supreme Court has stepped onto the battlefield, and the outcome will shape the nation's future. The story is complex, with profound legal and human consequences. The phones are ringing off the hook in Washington, and the world is watching. This is a moment of profound significance for American democracy. The rule of law and the balance of power are on the line. The nation waits for what comes next. The stakes could not be higher. To understand today's crisis, we must revisit a controversial Trump-era policy. The White House claimed the power to freeze funds already approved by Congress, arguing it was executive discretion to prevent waste. This unprecedented move impounded billions meant for disaster relief, food assistance, medical supplies, and international development. Congress pushed back, calling it an unconstitutional overreach, a line-item veto the president was never granted. Advocacy groups, nonprofits, and states sued, arguing the freeze violated the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. They said the freeze caused irreparable harm, delaying critical services and undermining government function. The government defended its actions as necessary executive authority, while opponents showed the real-world damage to vulnerable communities. The legal battle became a classic constitutional showdown, president versus Congress, with the courts in the middle. The stage was set for a bitter fight that would reach the nation's highest court. The stakes, the very structure of American government. The case raced through the courts, reflecting the crisis's urgency. Advocacy groups won early victories in federal district courts, which ordered the administration to release the funds. Judges found the executive branch had likely overstepped its authority. Congress appropriates, the executive spends. The government appealed, arguing the injunctions interfered with presidential management and national security. The Ninth Circuit upheld a nationwide injunction, ordering immediate release of the aid. For a moment, it seemed the fight was over, until the government made a rare emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. They argued releasing the funds now would irreparably harm executive authority. Justice Elena Kagan, overseeing the Ninth Circuit, referred the request to the full court. In the dead of night, the Supreme Court acted, freezing the funds once again. The legal battle had reached its highest and most consequential stage. The fate of billions and the balance of power now rested with 9 justices. The nation braced for a decision that could reshape the relationship between Congress and the presidency. The stakes had never been clearer. The Supreme Court's intervention marked a turning point in the constitutional struggle. Behind the legal drama are real people whose lives have been upended. In rural Louisiana, a community center remains shuttered, its staff laid off, and children left without a safe space. Congress approved the money, we made plans. Now we have nothing, says Director Maria Sanchez. Abroad, a clean water project in East Africa is stalled, wells dug, but no pumps, and communities still waiting for safe water. Project manager Ben Carter had to send his team home. We're so close, but without the funds, it's just holes in the ground. In Virginia, a tech firm lost contracts and had to lay off half its staff. Across the country, health clinics, job training programs, and research projects are on hold. These aren't just budget lines, they're lifelines, investments in the future, and commitments to those in need. The freeze has created a crisis for thousands of workers, families, and communities. The economic ripple effect is spreading, creating uncertainty and hardship. For those affected, the Supreme Court's decision isn't abstract, it's a devastating blow. Their hopes, work, and futures are now on hold. The stories are everywhere, from Appalachia to California, from local clinics to global aid projects. The human cost of this legal battle is mounting. The stakes are not just legal, they're deeply personal. The nation's most vulnerable are caught in the crossfire. The world is watching, and the consequences are real. The Supreme Court's administrative stay is a legal pause, not a final verdict. The justices haven't decided if the president can freeze funds. They've simply preserved the status quo while they consider the case. The stay blocks the Ninth Circuit's order, keeping the money frozen for now. This gives the court time to review complex arguments from both sides. The government must show it faces irreparable harm and a fair chance of winning to get such a stay. Granting it signals the court sees serious legal questions at stake. If the court denies the appeal, the money will be released. If it hears the case, the freeze could last months longer. The uncertainty continues for aid recipients and communities. The world waits for the court's next move. The stakes remain high as the legal battle unfolds. At the heart of this drama are two visions of government. The executive branch argues for a strong presidency, claiming the power to pause spending for fiscal responsibility and policy priorities. They warn of chaos if forced to fund programs they deem wasteful. They seek a broad interpretation of presidential power over the budget. On the other side, advocacy groups in Congress cite the Constitution. Only Congress controls the purse. The president's duty is to execute, not rewrite, the law. The Impoundment Control Act was passed to prevent exactly this kind of executive overreach. Opponents call the freeze an unconstitutional power grab that would set a dangerous precedent. The outcome could either empower presidents to hold funding hostage or reaffirm Congress's authority. The balance of power in American government hangs in the balance. This case forces the Supreme Court to confront the separation of powers. Congress writes the laws and controls the money. The president enforces, the judiciary interprets. The core issue: can the president refuse to execute a spending law passed by Congress? Advocacy groups argue the administration's actions defy the rule of law and undermine democracy. The Supreme Court must interpret the Constitution and the Impoundment Control Act to draw the line between executive and legislative power. Their decision will set a precedent shaping the relationship between presidents and Congress for generations. Siding with the executive could expand presidential power. Siding with Congress could reaffirm legislative primacy. The court's legitimacy and the nation's constitutional order are at stake. The justices are not just deciding about aid, they're defining the limits of power in our democracy. The consequences will be profound and lasting. The nation stands at a constitutional crossroads. The world is watching for the path the court will choose. The consequences of this case reach far beyond the frozen aid. A ruling for expanded executive power could reshape how government works, letting presidents freeze funds to pressure Congress. This would shift power toward the executive, making long-term planning nearly impossible for states, nonprofits, and contractors. Unpredictable funding could cripple projects and discourage private partnerships. It could also open the door for private companies to step in, raising questions about accountability and the role of profit in public aid. Weakening Congress's power of the purse could erode public trust and foster cynicism. If laws passed by elected representatives can be set aside by the executive, faith in democracy suffers. The stakes are not just about this year's budget, they're about the health of our institutions. The outcome will shape the future of American governance. The world is watching how the U.S. resolves this power struggle. As the legal battle drags on, the nation waits in suspense. Every day the funds remain frozen, real-world consequences mount, families go without, workers remain jobless, and projects stall. This case is a test of our institution's integrity and the Supreme Court's legitimacy. The public watches closely, wary of politicization and the court's role in shaping democracy. The decision will be scrutinized, with the court's credibility on the line. The balance of power between branches is not just theory. It's the guardrail of liberty. This is more than a legal dispute. It's a fight for the soul of American government. Allies and adversaries alike are watching how the U.S. resolves this crisis. Will the rule of law prevail, or are we witnessing a fundamental shift? The justices will decide, and until then, the nation holds its breath. The future of American democracy hangs in the balance.